Hello there, and thank you for joining us on this short but sweet 4-day Caribbean cruise on board the Celebrity Reflection. On this cruise, we're going to depart out of Fort Lauderdale, visit Key West and Bimini, Bahamas, with a day at sea before we return back to Fort Lauderdale. Now, on our embarkation day out of Fort Lauderdale, we decided we'd go ahead and start off with a little bit of pool party stuff here, and then we also did a little bit of walking around the ship and kind of giving you a view here of some of the different areas that you can go to if you want to for sail away. On this ship up on the Solstice deck on deck 16, it's actually a pretty good view. You can see all three sides if you want, and out the front of the ship and port and starboard. So just to give you a couple little ideas of where you can kind of go here. The Solstice deck is accessible with a little set of stairs on deck 15 towards the forward part of the ship. And then we got a couple of pretty little views as we sail out of Port Everglades and Fort Lauderdale there. And a little view of the glass elevators that they have there before we go ahead and head off to dinner here. This was the one night we actually ate in the dining room. The rest of the cruise, we actually did end up just doing dinner in the buffet to make it kind of easy for ourselves. And then here we are off to feel the funk. And then after that performance in the main theater, we ended up coming up to the Sky Lounge for a little bit of live music before we hung out for sunset and went ahead and headed off to bed for that evening. On our very next morning, we went ahead and arrived into Key West, Florida, and we thought we'd go ahead and give you a little bit of a tour of Key West and kind of what it looks like here on our day in port. For those who don't know, Key West is at the very southern tip of the Florida Keys and is considered to be the southernmost point in the continental United States. Now, as we end up kind of cruising through Key West here, you're going to just kind of see some of its charm and some of the things that they offer. It's very kind of a small walking area. You're not necessarily going to needing to rent a car. A lot of the stuff you can do is right within walking distance of the port. If you're just going to get off and go souvenir shopping or go grab something to eat or do a little sightseeing, you really don't need to do anything more than that, kind of like we did. They're just fooling around in the port. There are just tons of little stores all up and down the streets. You don't necessarily have to go up Duval, which is their most famous kind of thoroughfare that comes off the port there. There's stuff all over the place in Key West. There's all this area over here by the piers. You can come over here and grab a boat for a day out on the water, whether it's just sightseeing, snorkeling, fishing, scuba diving. There's actually a little scuba diving place that I found over here, which is kind of nice for those of us who are scuba divers. It's right as you kind of head off the pier from the ship, and you'll just kind of hang a left and go down Green Street, and that'll kind of run you over here into this boating and harbor area for Key West. And like I said, there's tons of little restaurants, monuments that you can go take a look at, a bunch of different souvenir shops that you can go to. They're pretty much everywhere that you'll end up going here in Key West. You're also going to see some really nice boats. You'll find that people do end up riding their bikes around here quite a bit, just like that. You'll see them all over the place riding their bikes. and the commercial area is kind of up in this area. There's more souvenir shops. It's just kind of this never-ending just supply of places to go in and browse around. The Waterfront Brewery is actually a really good restaurant, and we're actually going to come back to that because that's where we ended up grabbing lunch while we were out here walking around. And just kind of a few little extra places you can kind of go sightsee as you go past the Waterfront Brewery, and all the little fun signs and decorations that you run into here in Key West. The Waterfront Brewery is actually a pretty good restaurant. They have lots of different food. The food was very, very good. We ended up getting scallops, and I ended up getting a fish sandwich to go with it. And the food was actually very good. So it's not a bad place if you want to stop in and grab something to eat and get something to drink as well. So you'll also run into a bunch of birds thinking that they're gonna try and steal some of your food too. This place was unique because it had a neat little arcade in the back, so if you have kids with you, you can consider that as a place to kind of go stop and grab something to eat and keep your kids entertained. And then after that, we just kind of hiked around to burn off some of the food and see some of the other parts of Key West that are around here. We ended up going up Duval Street here, past the Hard Rock Cafe, which they do have one here. There is a cookies and ice cream place called Matheson's, and we've been here before, and it is actually really, really good if you want to stop in and grab something really sweet to eat or a nice little treat. And there's your husband daycare center at the bars, which is kind of funny. And after this, we ended up heading back to the ship for the little bit of rest before we ended up coming up to the dinner buffet. So this evening we had just the dinner buffet, and we figured we'd give you a pretty good tour. The dinner buffet on board the celebrity ships is very good. You never have to worry about finding something that you're going to want to eat up here. The service is going to be a little bit quicker. You're going to have a greater variety than what you're going to get in the dining room. You're just giving up the dining room service to come up here kind of at your leisure and grab something to eat. But these dinner buffets are always plentiful and tasty and really good. Celebrity really does have the best dinner buffets that you're going to find just on just about any cruise ship anywhere that you go. Whether it's a variety or quality, they are pretty much the best that there is for their buffets, especially on any of their newer ships. But pretty much any ship, even the older Constellation was actually a pretty good buffet, just not quite as much variety as what you'll find on some of these ships here that are a little bit newer. And hopefully all this delicious food and great scenery will inspire you to give us a subscribe. We would love it if you'd hit that like and subscribe button. It really does help out the channel, and we really do appreciate it, and it is absolutely free to do that. And then after dinner, we ended up with a little bit of live music in a few different locations around the ship. After Key West, our very next day, we ended up arriving in Bimini in the Bahamas. Now, Bimini is about the closest island in the Bahamas that you can get to for Florida. It's really not that far away. There is actually a ship that leaves out of Fort Lauderdale. It is a ferry that goes back on a pretty regular basis. It's called the Balearia Shuttle, but it's just one of those that comes right back and forth here to Bimini on a daily basis pretty much. The Island of Bimini is not very big. You're gonna see kind of a little map that we got here on the right, and it's gonna give you a little guide of where you're at on the island. That was kind of the first beach you're gonna come to before we ended up grabbing a cart, a golf cart that we could just drive around the island. The rental is kind of for the whole day, well, at least as long as you're in port anyway. And it affords you the opportunity to kind of go to a few different places on the island. You can tour around and see a few different spots that you would normally not necessarily get to come down and see or be able to walk to. It is a couple of miles of walking to get down to the very southern end of Bimini off the cruise port there. So it's not necessarily the easiest thing to do on a walk. It's pretty easy to do with a golf cart. There's not a lot of traffic. There's basically two main roads on this island. It's almost impossible to get lost. If you got Google Maps, it'll get you around without too much trouble. The golf cart was about $100 for the day. I'm not going to tell you it was cheap, but they do cost less than if you were going to necessarily do some sort of an excursion through the ship. It's a little bit cheaper to just pay $100 for a golf cart, and if you got some friends that you're going with, you can split the cost on a 4-person golf cart and off you go. There are a number of beaches that you can go to all over the island. The first one was right there by the pier. If you want to go to a beach and you don't want to actually go anywhere, get a ride, pay for a beach resort or a beach club or anything like that, that's the easiest one to go to. I think the only thing you ended up paying for there is if you got some food at the food trailers or you rented an umbrella and some chairs for $20 to $30 or something like that at the beach. They are always kind of changing the prices around here on some of these places. But once you get down to the very far southern end here, there is this really nice treed area where you can just kind of pull your golf cart over and park and walk on out to this really, really nice beach that they have out here towards the very southern tip of North Bimini. Bimini is divided into two islands. There's north and south. The cruise ship is on the north side. To get to the south one, there is no bridge or anything like that. You'd have to take a little boat across to the South Bimini Island. So honestly, it's not something that happens all that often. But this beach out here is actually really, really beautiful. It's picturesque. There's plenty of sand. There's lots of shade back in the trees. You can just bring a towel and hang out if you just want to come out to the beach. There are plenty of places to get in the water. There's even a little hike up to a shipwreck up here as we kind of run into this little boat that's been shipwrecked along the shore, and it's kind of commonly referred to as Shipwreck Beach out here. But we ended up hanging out under the trees, and then I went ahead and jumped in and went for a snorkel so that I could kind of just get a little bit of activity in and snorkel over to the shipwreck so you can kind of see what this shipwreck looks like from just from a snorkeling perspective. The water isn't very deep. It's really easy to swim. It's a nice way to cool off. There's not a lot of current out here. It's actually a pretty nice little beach to kind of come and hang out at. And there's lots of these little entrances through the rocks where you can kind of step down and just jump right in the water if you need to cool off. Now, if you're going to kind of do what I did here, there's this little kind of rock shallow area here. Don't do it without water shoes. Your feet will regret it. It's a little bit rough on the feet to kind of come out here and try and do that, but take my advice, don't do it without water shoes. And then as we head back here, I'm going to grab this cutie to head off and go back to grab something to eat. We ended up just kind of heading back about a mile or so, if even that, off the beach to this nice little restaurant that sits out at one of their marinas that they have. This is the Bimini Seafood Company. It is actually really, really good food. I really enjoyed the food we got here. I had some conch fritters, and she ended up getting a fish sandwich as well. And if you want something to drink, they have an endless supply of alcoholic beverages here. It is 3 pages worth of concoctions that they've got all over that menu. It's a nice little open air place. It's just kind of relies on the breeze to keep it cool, and the view is a very, very spectacular view, and the drinks are certainly worth stopping in for here. So just a little suggestion. And then we ended up over here going to Radio and Elaine's Beach. This is kind of on the other side of the main road. It's just out towards the Florida side of the island. It's a nice little quiet beach. You can grab a massage, you can get a $20 chair and umbrellas, and then hang out down there if you'd like to go that way, but you'll probably want to rent a golf cart to get down there as well. Now, as you head to the north of the cruise ship pier, you're going to come back past Resort World here, and this road that you're going to go up ends up going into Virgin Voyage's beach club, Bimini Beach Club, that they have up here. There is a cost per person to go into their Bimini Beach Club if you aren't on a different cruise line than Virgin Voyage is. The Virgin Voyage passengers do get to come in here for free, but since we are on Celebrity, this would have been probably $40 to $50 for an entrance to come into the beach club. There is a free shuttle from the port, so you don't necessarily have to rent a golf cart to get up to it. You can just take the shuttle up there and it'll drop you off. But then there's also this last and final beach that's up here just on the other side of Virgin Voyage's beach club. This is a nice little beach that you can come out and hang out at. You can rent some umbrellas and a chair, and it's probably a little bit less expensive than if you were to go stay in the beach club. And this is the end of our tour before we ended up heading off to that night's main theater performance of Elysium.
I'm getting tired and I need somewhere to begin. And if you have a minute, why don't we go talk about it somewhere only we know. This could be the end of everything, so why don't we go somewhere only we know.
Our final day was a day at sea after leaving Bimini. We ended up just kind of tooling around out in the Gulf and in the Gulf Stream and having a grand old party on board the Reflection. They did all kinds of pool volleyball. They did officers versus passenger volleyball. It was one great big party that they do out here. It's actually very entertaining, but this is a 4-day cruise, and this is kind of what happens. You end up with a lot of people just on their 4-day party, 4-day weekend, trying to have a good time for a little bit. They even bring out the entertainment staff to kind of keep the passengers entertained. And after the party, we ended up heading back in before going off to see the comedian that evening. That was the final performance of our cruise.
What university? Sam Houston? Good for you. Yes, home of the Bearcats. Yes, because I'm thinking bears that mix it up with cats, and that's their offspring, a bearcat.
All right, and as we come to the end of our cruise here, and we return back to Fort Lauderdale and Port Everglades. I'd like to thank everyone for hanging out with us, and please don't forget to give us a like and a subscribe. Thank you so much.